One night's normal sleep. I don't think I even woke up. Yesterday's video was a little bit chopped up and I wasn't even with it between the ears quite clearly yet. And those 4 a.m. starts on the water, they beat you up pretty good because you work your ass off the whole time. And then the day before I got home here, I was up at 4, had a group of guys from Wyoming, and so I had to guide all day, and we put on a clinic. There's 3 boats, all my buddies, and 3 of us, and I don't know how many fish we caught. I literally do not have a clue. I know we all did about the same. I mean, we were releasing fish left, right, and center. We probably caught around, I don't know, 30 fish each plus. It's a lot of work, right? A lot of fun. And then after that, we have to fillet the fish for the customers once we get to the dock. So we had to do that. Then we had to clean up the boat, and then we had to drive the logging road back home, and there's a detour. So I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning after 4 days of that, up 4 in the morning on the water. But the last day before coming home, up at 4 in the morning, guided till 1:30 in the afternoon, processed the fish, cleaned our boat from one to the other, packed all our gear, the Starlink stuff, everything, all the way up. There's a huge ramp straight up the bank. It's not easy to get to the dock. Got the truck, and then pouring rain, drove 2.5 hours on the logging road, got home, did everything I had to do here, and by the time I sat down for the first time it was 8 o'clock at night. Whoa! And then got up in the morning at 5 and hit this. So I wasn't the smoothest dude yesterday. And that is my story of what happened. Text from Nino. Straight off the... What's Nino just say? Alright, Nino's suggesting Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific Saturday. Alright, let's do it. 10 a.m. Saturday, we're going live with Nino. You got it? You just found out the second I did, so I'll reply. Okay, done. Saturday, 10 a.m. my time, Pacific. Going live with Nino again. Now, moving on. What do we got? Who do we got? We got a lot. There's a lot of emails. Now, where are we going to go here? There's so many. See, obviously I do not start. I don't start, I don't rehearse anything. You guys get it as I get it, except for the odd time when I pre-record and I get sucked into reading an email forever. That was not an email I should have even dove into, but you don't know until you dive in, right? It's all a process of weeding it out. One more quick note, and don't take this the wrong way. My inboxes get loaded with emails. I also get a handful of junk mail in there. Try to weed that out, hit it as spam when I can. But just so you guys know, when I have an email that starts off with "watch this," it's obviously a video. Hey man, watch this video. I just automatically delete it. I have to. My inbox gets absolutely flooded with "gotta watch this video, watch this video, watch this video, watch this video." And just so you know, I stay on top of what's going on the planet diligently, endlessly. I know what's up. I got it. I'd say probably 100 and almost nearly 100% of what videos I have cracked open, just seeing the title, I already got it. I'm there. All right, I know. So I've asked in the past if people could please not send me, hey, watch this video emails. I've asked politely, I've asked kindly, please, I'm begging, pleading, don't do it. And now I am just automatically deleting those emails. I don't crack them open. If it says watch this, I have to just delete it and get it out of my way, because there's important voices to be heard here. My main focus is getting the people heard and making the people number one. And I realize there's people on other videos, but there's a lot of people who have had to build up their courage to come here and then go out of their way to write down what they know, what they've seen, what they want to share, and it's a struggle for many people. And I really need to focus on those people, priority number one. And I can't stand those people's emails getting missed, getting lost, getting clogged in a huge inbox and not seen. All right? So, and if there's been a handful of people out there, they send me, watch this, daily. So I'm begging and pleading for you to not do that. And if you're doing it multiple times, I'm going to have to block you altogether, okay? I'm just going to have to, because you are annihilating my inbox. All right, and that's, I mean, whatever. I'm not going to lose sleep over myself, but out of respect for all the people who have built up the courage to come here and share their emails, out of respect for them, I'm going to delete your ass if you keep on doing it all the time. All right? All right, here we go. Here we go. This is titled Broken Trees. Hello Steve, I'm a long-time listener and I really enjoy your YouTube videos. I found these broken trees on my brother-in-law's property in Northern California. He claimed they were damaged in a recent storm. A recent storm? Alright, well, I think we could all possibly agree that storms don't do that to trees. That first picture, that's pretty crazy. I'll hopefully remember to share them in the edit. Looking at a tree trunk being snapped off about X amount of feet to the top, that's so common around me, and the timber is stupid, so you understand. Especially smaller ones. Snow load could possibly do it. Who knows? But yeah, this one picture, that's something else. And it looks to be possibly on the side of a road, so I don't know. If a machine did that, it would have grip marks on the bark. But anyway, there you go. More broken trees. Gotcha. Appreciate the share. Myself, do I get worked up about broken trees? No. No, I don't. Not anymore. Maybe in the beginning when I was trying to figure out if there's really something going on for us, but that stage of the game for me personally, footprints in the dirt don't do shit for me anymore. Not anymore. We've moved ahead. Way ahead. There's another one with some more photos. Scat photos and updated activity. Alright, hello Steve. First, thanks for what you do and this channel, bringing this knowledge to those who seek it. My name is Frank, and I'll leave my last name out to keep those a-holes from the four-letter douche group from locating my place, as they will be dealt with in an unkindly manner. Good for you. You read my story September 2021 of my experience the previous month at my cabin in the Adirondacks of upstate New York. By the way, your pronunciation has gotten much better. LOL. Just to refresh your memory, my experience in August 21 included the vacuum of silence effect. Something black and lightning speed running out of the hollow into the swamp, followed by immediate coyote and owl hoots from 100 yards or so behind me. Shortly followed by a mind speak account. Also, I told the story of the squirrel breaking into the cabin and getting into the coffee container, and after eating a batch, proceeded to shit and puke coffee before croaking from what I presume to have been a caffeine-induced heart attack. No way. Anyway, this area is near the Frank E. Jadwin Forest, Jadwin Forest, at the middle branch of the Oswegatchie River. That's pronounced Oswegatchie. LOL. Last month, a few friends and I were out there clearing debris from downed trees, and I was taking the four-wheeler dragging treetops into the woods to pile up out of the way. On my loop path back around the cabin, prepping to make another bush dragging trip, couple typos, which takes me part of the way back onto the used logging trail. Just before cresting over the top, before I could see the cabin, about 40 yards away was a huge turd in the middle of this old logging road slash path. This trail slash path is used to go back and forth to the back of the property and goes to the food plot. Was this meant to be found, making a statement, or just couldn't wait to get back to their outhouse? LOL. I've attached a photo to the email with my foot next to it. I wear a 12.5 boot, and this thing was easily 15 inches long and as big around as my wrist. We have bears and an occasional moose around, but this is neither. It was mostly green with what looked to be a lot of fiber-like plant material. If I'm wrong, you think this is bear scat, please let me know. I've seen plenty of bear scat, and this does not look like anything I've ever seen. This is the exact same spot where if something wanted to view the cabin and not be seen, it could easily hide just over the hill to look over the top to not be seen. This spot always pulls my eyesight throughout the day, just looking for whatever. There also used to be a tree that was snapped and bent over at 8 foot high, leaning over the trails as if to say, stop here. Exactly where this turd was found. I found other structures like this, including a star structure with 3 sticks laid over a stump. No way did these just fall there from above, perfectly symmetrical. These sticks were placed there. A few other odd things have been going on since that experience in August of 21. A few months ago you mentioned hearing grouse or a partridge beating their wings at night. I had this going on for about 4 months while out of the cabin. I could hear this going on even as late as 2 a.m. and crazy loud too. This just seems out of place. This was coming from the area I often hear coyotes and the same location of the coyotes and owl calls less than 5 minutes after my encounter in 2021. I followed your advice, and a few months later, in November 21, I got a 2-year-old male husky. Last summer I was taking him for a walk down the dirt road the cabin driveway connects to, and he was looking into the woods and barking while staring into the woods. Excuse me, this dog almost never barks. I couldn't see a thing nor what he was looking at. I started down over the bank to take a look and tried to get him to follow, but he wasn't having any parts of it. So I followed his lead and we got out of there. Last fall, I was just sitting by the fire pit cooking dinner when I heard something in the swamp area 100 feet or so away, making noise going through the brush. I saw a medium-sized black bear hauling ass as fast as he could, coming out of the swamp and running down the hollow next to the stream. And he just kept going. This wasn't a gentle run. This bear was running as fast as it could get away from something. He came from the same direction that being, or should I say that huge black flash, ran towards the previous year. I highly doubt it was a human chasing this bear, as there was nobody out there. This past May there was a doe hanging around the cabin just circling. I was at the front with the dog and this deer came right out of the woods to us and was just hanging around within 25 feet. So close I had to hold the dog back because he wanted a piece, but this didn't sway the deer. This was odd behavior, as this place is desolate and the local wildlife is far from tame and not wanting to be near humans. There have been several mentions from the group of instances where deer come close to humans as there being something more dangerous to them nearby than us. Anyway, I want to share this photo with you and the group, and might as well include updated activity. Then yes, every time I go out to my cabin and land, I stop at the gate and say, I'm here for X number of nights, just leave me alone, etc. Stay safe out there, everyone. And F. Joe Biden. Frank. Okay, appreciate you, Frank. Alright, that's definitely a hammer size dropping. Right? It's a big one. It's a big turd ski. Confirmed. I'm definitely not the I don't have a PhD in Sasquatch turds, but It doesn't look like anything I've seen. And like you said, if you got bears, you know what it looks like. You know, another thing too, you guys, is with bears, when they have a little bit of a hole they like to nest up in, you'll see their droppings all over the place. Like within 8 feet of each other, you'll come to a big clump of maybe a dozen piles of bear shit. Bump, 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 bump. And then you know you're in his bedroom. You're hanging out right there. And other people may say, well, that's probably where they're feeding. There's probably berry bushes there. No. Obviously, there's bear scat wherever they feed for sure. They're just like omnivores. When they're grazing, they're eating. It's going in one end and pumping out the other as they go. But they don't do it pump, 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 all around, all the way, all over in one spot. So a lot of you may come across that sometime. Say, what's going on here? It's everywhere. Bears don't do that. Yes, they do. They do it. Okay, now before I carry on here, bear with me, I have to remember too, I have to save these images to put in a video into my photo album on my phone from the notes. Then I remember to do it. Now I gotta go up and find, because there's another one here too, the broken tree, right? I will take the significant tree break image, save that. Because the other ones are just broken tree trunks. I don't need to include those. I don't imagine you guys have seen lots of broken trees and there's nothing here that makes you go, whoa! Just younger trees broken. And older looking. But anyway, there you go. There you go. Shared. Appreciate the update. And you know what's up. You know what's out there on your property, man. You already know. You already know. So, moving forward, let's gain more knowledge from the people so that we can figure out the whys. Okay, here's another. These are all fairly recent emails too, by the way. They've been stacking up, as I say, up on the top. This is titled, Unexpected and Unwanted Visitor. Unexpected and Unwanted Visitor. Hi Steve, this is the very first of several encounters I've had. Excuse me. It was June of '89 and I was 28 years old. My boyfriend at the time and I decided to go for a ride at night on the outskirts of Belton, Missouri. Belton. We went down a dirt road that was mostly hay fields and some wooded areas on both sides with railroad tracks running through it. There were no houses around. We found a pull-off spot several miles down the road. I backed into the spot and turned off the engine. We sat there talking for about 20 minutes when some movement across the road caught my eye. The moon was bright that night, and beyond the old 4-foot rock wall I seen something. I asked my boyfriend, did you see that? As we looked, we both seen something stand up approximately 3 feet above from behind the rock wall and go back down again. Yeah, I've seen that before too. It's kind of creepy, right? We couldn't see any detail as it was backlit by the moon, but you could make out a head on top of very wide shoulders. I said, what the hell is that? Stood up again. My boyfriend grabbed his knife in hand and said, let's get the F out of here. I turned the key in the ignition and nothing. The car wouldn't start. That sucks. There were no lights, no clicking of the motor, nothing. I tried 2 more times, still nothing. As I was about to try 1 more time, I looked up to see if this thing was getting closer, but I didn't see it anymore. I turned the key once again, and this time the car started right up. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. As we were talking about what happened, we both agreed that whatever this thing was somehow drained the car, keeping it from starting, as I've never had problems with the car starting before or after this encounter. I'll say this, I never parked on a back road in the dark again. Thank you, Steve, for all you do and giving us a safe place to share encounters. Bless you and your family. Sincerely, Brenda T. Appreciate you, Brenda. I'm wondering if, before that happened, if you were aware of these beings before that. I wonder. I wonder. Yeah, parking the back roads, they do it all the time. You know, one time, I was parking where I normally go deer hunting in the coastal mountains where I was previously living, right, where I've taken you into the mountains, I don't know how many times, where those logs were piled against a tree, standing upright, around a 45. One time, I sit in my truck and it's pitch black, and I have this one spot where I hide my truck, stuff into these bushes, because I've been quite successful in the past with large black-tailed deer, and there's no shortage of guys trying to take the lazy way out and try to figure out where I'm hunting instead of using knowledge that I share publicly to help people find their own places and learn how to hunt it. And there's a handful of people that would non-stop try to figure out where I was to screw me over, right? So I hide my truck in these really goofy places, and I sit there in the dark, and then I finish whatever I'm doing. Usually I'll grab something to eat on the way, and I'll eat that, and then I'll bring my coffee with me in my backpack. So when I finally get up the mountain in the dark, and it's usually the night before is when I spook myself out about my hike in the dark, every time. Because I don't know if it's going to go down again or not, right? I don't know when it's going to go down, and I just hope it's not tomorrow. Because I really want to enjoy my time on that mountain. And that one time I get out of the truck, and when I get out of the truck, I make sure that my cab light and my truck doesn't light up, so it's just pitch black. I'm doing everything in the dark. I get out of my truck, and then all of a sudden everything on the back of my neck was turning to wire, and I couldn't get back into my truck fast enough. One time. That brings back that memory of being parked in the back road, right? And then another quick mention on the previous email to this one, sorry, was when they mentioned the deer coming near human beings to be where it's a little more safer. And I can totally relate to that more than once. And one time in particular, I used to have a drift boat, and a drift boat is like a rowing dory, flat bottom boat, for all you who aren't familiar. And you put it in at the top of a river, and you drift down the river all day. And you row to steer, and you have an anchor in the back, and you anchor up, or you beach it on gravel bars, and then you fish. And with me, it would have been fishing for steelhead in the winter and spring. Anyway, one time I had a couple guys once you commit, once you leave going down the river, you're committed, because the river takes off away from the roads and winds all the way down. This particular time I was on the Cowichan River on Vancouver Island years ago, and on this river, there was noted numerous anglers were reporting being growled at by something terrifying for a while. I remember that. And also another farmer had seen huge 17-inch prints going clear across a cultivated field not too far from that river as well. There's piles of sightings in the Cowichan Valley. It's ridiculous. Anyways, we're floating down the river, and it's probably mid-drift. So mid-drift for me meaning midway down throughout the day, so it's probably noon-ish, which noon-ish is not a common time for deer to be bouncing around, especially in the wintertime and on a sunny day. They like to just lay back in the sunshine in a spot in their bed where the sun can hit them and warm them up naturally and conserve energy. Anyway, all of a sudden here's something crashing through the brush, and we're beached on shore and we're standing on a gravel bar. A long gravel bar alongside the timber, alongside the river. And the gravel bar was probably 100 yards long by 15 or 10 yards wide. And this doe comes busting out of the timber, hits the gravel bar, and comes and runs down by us and stands there panting. Right? My buddies are kind of looking like, oh, that's kind of weird. Me, I'm going like this. Deer panting, standing by us, and I'm just glued onto the timber looking for anything. So I'm thinking, oh shit, this isn't going to be good. Right? Possibly. And the deer kept looking back in the timber. Didn't give a shit about us. Zero. That deer was standing next to us for security. 110%. Maybe the deer was initially going to run and jump into the river and cross, and then saw us and saw it and thought, somehow, however they know, there's security, I'm standing there. Right? Weird, right? Nothing came out, didn't hear a thing. And I have had that happen in the past in the woods, and I actually have that in one of my hunt stories, where I was sitting with a hunter. I had no gun. We're sitting there, already rode through a fresh snowfall in the night, so snow was just hammering down on top of me as you're riding your horse for about an hour and a half to get to this one particular basin. And now I'm kind of soaked, and we're calling elk, and I want to tie up the horses and have maybe a little fire here. And My hunter goes, man, look at that moose. And all of a sudden, here comes this moose busting out of the timber, and a monster bull. And the velvet was just coming off his antlers. So that means it's pre-rut. He's not rutting. The only thing that's going to make a moose like that run like that time of year, is either a grizzly bear or wolves, and nothing else. Well, obviously something else that we know about, right? You never know. So he says, man, look at that moose. I go, holy shit. Keep an eye on where he came from. You probably see a grizzly or a pack of wolves or something, right? And then that moose came flying all the way down the other side of the basin, up across the river, up through the timberland. Boom! He's literally standing here at the sliding glass door. What's that? 3 paces. I'm looking up at this bull moose, like this. And he's looking at me, with his velvet hanging down, looking like a Medusa animal. It was unbelievable. And the hunter's rifle was leaning on the log beside me. I grabbed the rifle and I'm pointing it. I'm literally pointing it up at the moose saying, get out of here, you idiot. Get out of here. Ready to dump it, right? It's very, very intimidating having a, what are they? I think they're 6.5 feet tall just to the shoulder hump, so they're pushing 10 feet at the top of the antlers. Stand right there looking at him. And then he took off. And we're both like, holy cow. We already had a moose tagged already. We were out hunting elk. And then all of a sudden, what comes from where the moose busted out? A great big male grizzly bear going step for step where that moose just ran, and the story carries on into an absolute insane moment. I'll share it. It's on the How to Hunt channel or whatever. It's on this channel, I think, if you look back. And the bear ended up dying, yes, and it was just as far away. But anyway, that's another time where I can relate to the ungulate, the prey animal, busting out of the timber, panting. And the one time that the culprit showed itself was the grizzly bear. But that time for me, with that deer in the timber on Cowichan River, nothing came out. And I had a lot of heads up. So if it was a natural predator, dogs, even pack of domestic dogs or wolves, they would have busted out right behind that doe and then seen us and then taken off, which it didn't happen. So I always remember that moment. Sorry for the ramble, you guys. Sorry for the ramble. Who's next? This is recent. A Shaman's Tale is the title of this email. Hi Steve, I'm new to your channel and blown away with the reports you put out there about our Bigfoot neighbors. My name is Brett Sutherland, and I'm now 55 and a New Zealand-born male. Back in 2000, I was living in BC and became friends with a native shaman woman. During our in-depth spiritual talks, she realized I was open to the subject of Bigfoot, so told me about the 2 times she saw them. Wow, you're very fortunate to befriend that lady, and double fortunate to have her share with you. One story is probably one you've never heard or heard of happening before. As this shaman was doing her training, it brought her to a remote... Wait a minute. As this shaman was doing her training, it brought her to a remote mountain area, I think in Washington State. She was living in a teepee. During the cold nights, she had to wake up every few hours or so to keep her fire going. It was windy outside and the teepee flap was closed. While she was sleeping, she woke up to a brief screeching sound and sat straight up. She sat straight upright. The flap in her teepee was open and the fire was low, but had enough light so she could see in the darkness. There in front of her, inside the teepee, was a Bigfoot. All this woman could do was try to project love to this being. As she looked at it, it raised up a baby Bigfoot by its arms so she could see the baby. Then it turned and exited the teepee and disappeared into the night. My friend sat in wonder at what she had just witnessed, trying to understand what just occurred. She never felt any fear, and I guess she had a little time to feel it. She was in another level of spiritual understanding, and maybe this is why the Bigfoot was open to her. She told me that the screech she heard was the Bigfoot giving birth to that baby. She had no explanation as to why it chose her teepee in which to do so, but she was sure about what she saw. Her second encounter was to witness 3 adults and two young walking along a small valley in the daytime. The young were holding the hand of an adult. She wasn't close to them, but knew what they were, and the Bigfoot didn't notice her. They walked off and disappeared. The shaman woman believes they can make themselves invisible and are highly connected spiritual beings. Said every native indigenous group. Always. She never was open to have these stories told, but she is now long gone, and it seems these revelations have their time to come out. She spoke of the banshee, too, stories of which they told children to keep them from being in the woods at night. The same thing? I don't know. I understand some here in New Zealand have experienced Bigfoot and recall reading in Nexus magazine maybe 30 years ago about some of people's stories. Cheers, Brett. I love these stories, so keep up with your good work. Okay, Brett, appreciate you writing in, man. Appreciate your time you just donated to the gang. And just so you know, there has been a fair handful of people, Kiwis, have written into me with experiences from New Zealand. Do I believe them? 100%. I've also ran around New Zealand to South Island. Oh man, I'm forgetting the names. Anyways, everywhere from Lake, what's that big lake by the ski hill? I can't believe I'm forgetting that name. And then, what was it, west or south out to Hast? That little tiny community on the coast, that long beach, and those sand flies. Holy, beautiful beaches. And these flies, tiny little black flies, annihilate you. And the legend has it, it was the gods imposed those flies on the white man for coming down there to annihilate the time on the beach, or something like that, I don't know. But I ran around in those jungles, and I also I went up a lot of those freshwater creeks that cut down out of those jungles onto that highway. We parked and went way up in there exploring and hunting red deer, wild red deer. Interesting place. Very interesting place, very beautiful place. And I also got dropped off by helicopter way up into those tall mountains and hung out up there for a handful of days too. But there's a lot of sightings in New Zealand, 110%. All right, moving along. Mark this as read. It's fairly recent. Respect, knowledge, truth, and acceptance is the title of this email. Hey Steve, I've been listening to you for over 4 years now, back when you were telling hunting stories. I enjoy listening to you about all topics, especially the Sasquatch. My name is Aaron Nowers. Nowers? Nowers. Nowers, and I hope, Aaron, I didn't butcher your name, and I apologize if I did. And yes, you can use my name. I'm 41 years old and live on the central coast of New South Wales, Australia. I'm an avid hunter, mainly deer, since the age of 13, and have reached out to you in the past. I've thought about writing to you for a very long time, and now have the courage to do so. Love it. My experience is not a full-on sighting, but I know it was the Australian Yowie for sure. Before I share my experience, I want you to know a few things. It's in point form. I have the utmost respect for you as a true outdoorsman and hunter. Thank you, appreciate that. I thank you for what you are doing for all of us and the round table. I truly believe that I have the knowledge from my experiences from being in the bush alone while hunting. I know the truth, and I feel that I don't have to explain it to anyone, as most people in Australia are very ignorant to a lot of your topics, unfortunately. I accept that the truth may stay hidden to the general public in my lifetime, but you just never know, right? It's not hidden anymore. Please note, Steve, that I'm not a writer. LOL, I have only told this to my wife, daughter, and the farm boy at the property. Gotcha. None of us are. Well, you're all good. You found your people, man. My first experience was Walcha, New South Wales. Walcha. Walcha. While fallow deer hunting in the rut of March 2017, with still warm nights and hot days, I had stalked onto a young buck following a mob of does. A mob is Australian for a herd. I got within 200 yards of him and was getting set up for a nice rested shot. I had plenty of time as the wind was in my face. For no reason that I could explain or register, the buck suddenly jumped and ran over the ridge and out of sight, and so did the does. I could not believe it, as it was not me or any other animal or hunter that spooked them. It made me quite pissed, as I thought it was a great stalk. I decided to sit for a while longer, hoping that another few does might stroll past. About half an hour passed, but nothing. Though I came to realize that I was feeling a bit different for some reason, and noticed that it seemed to be very quiet, as I have what the doctors call tinnitus. So do I. And the ringing in my ears was more noticeably loud, which sometimes can be distressing. Yeah, I get that too, in the woods. All of a sudden it's screaming. Your ears are screaming. Then out of nowhere, I heard a not so distant and very loud and clear "Oh, wah" call from the tree line above me. It sounded like a huge owl on steroids, but I knew it wasn't. A minute or so had passed. Then again and again, "Ooh, wah," but even louder and longer. It was making me feel very uncomfortable and nervous, but really curious at the same time, as I swear, Steve, I've heard every sound there is in the bush, but never this one, and it couldn't possibly be a human or a deer or a goat or a pig or a bird. Just by the sheer power behind the "oh, wah," and the feeling that it gave me. It stopped after about the 10th time, so I decided to get the hell out of that area and head back to camp before it starts again or gets closer. As I turned to start on my hike back, I got this weird pressure feeling, like the hairs on my body were standing up, and that feeling like something or someone is watching you, or like the feeling you get when you were a kid that made you want to run from a ghost in the dark or something. I made it back to camp with only a couple of hours, as I was moving fast with fear. I was greeted by a young farm boy named Hugo. He was about 10 years old, and I told him my experience straight away, and I couldn't believe what he said. He said, "Don't worry, mate. That's just the yowie that lives in the mountains, that steals Dad's antlers and skulls off the ant piles." I said, "You've seen him?" And Hugo said, "No, mate, we don't mess with him, or he will take our calves and chickens, as livestock has gone missing before when Dad tried hunting him." I said, "Okay, no worries, but I know he is definitely out there." I left the next morning, very intrigued, but also blessed that I had had that experience with a yowie and survived. I'm going to return to Walcha this year, and I'm not sure what to expect or how I'll feel when I get there. I have another experience to share, another time from Alberta near Fort McMurray. I hope this email finds you well, Steve, and thank you for sharing. All the best to you and your family. Take care, Aaron. Aaron, you should have tacked on the Alberta one here, man. So who knows when I'm going to find your next email, if or when you send it in. And Fort McMurray as well is where that sound, that terrifying sound recording was sent to us a couple years ago. But anyway, yeah, you know, for the people that are listening, when people write in about just hearing a sound, you have to, it can read to not sound like much but you have to try to picture hearing a sound in the forest or in the mountains which has such an impact on you and your life and your memory that you are impelled to write in about it. Right? Do you understand what I'm trying to throw out there? Is when somebody writes in about hearing these sounds, especially when it vibrates your rib cages, it's something else, right? It's not your average sound. It's like a holy shit sound. Just keep that in mind when we hear about people writing in about hearing something, okay? It's not just a sound. I heard a weird bird the other day. It's much, much more significant. More significant than it's a lot. I'm babbling. All right, moving along. Appreciate that, man. And make sure you email me in about the Fort Mac experience too, all right? Because there's a lot has gone down not too far from there, okay? All right, this next one is titled Looking for Info. Hello, Steve. Been watching you and your show every day since Tell My Story How to Hunt was started. I've been in the woods hunting since I was 15. I'm now 72. Appreciate you coming here, man. Can't wait to hear what you got to share. I've hunted a number of places in my life, but I've never hunted like you do. I live in Florida in the Panhandle. And my question to the family is of an incident that happened to me on a hunting lease in Georgia. Over the years, I've had my hair on the back of my neck stand up, and I would get apprehensive. I never experienced anything other than that. But while hunting in Georgia around 1980, I was going to my stand in the dark in a tunnel trail through a hedgerow separating two farms. I had scouted it and found a buck rub, so I put up a tree stand. The morning I'm referring to, I was creeping to my stand in the dark with no flashlight. As I reached it, I put my foot on the first step, and the loudest slap on the ground I've ever heard happened within a few feet of me, but heard nothing else. To tell you how strong the slap was, I would compare it to welding a steel square plate on the bottom of a 12-pound sledgehammer and slapping the ground as hard as a big man could. I shot up that tree stand and waited for the sun to come up. And right after light, a buck came by, about too small to shoot. I never really told anybody about it because I did not have an answer and don't know what could have made that kind of noise. I looked all around when I climbed down out of my stand, and I found no tree or limb or anything within a radius of my stand that could have made a noise like that. I told the farmer about what I experienced. They said it was probably a buck stomping the ground. If that was a buck, he would have to be a monster. I never saw anything. P.S. I have never climbed a tree stand so fast. I was wondering if anybody else had that happen to them. Anyways, bless you, brother. And Sarah, keep up the good work. I listen every day. Brother in arms, Tim Hook. And they're right. I'm probably crazy. Okay, Tim. So I hope I didn't butcher your name. H-O-U-C-K. You know what it was. You know my answer. You know what it was. I can relate to that at one other time back in the day when I had quit guiding for game for a couple seasons, and I decided I was going to apply my skills to finding these beings intentionally. And I was in the coastal mountains, and where I went one time was it was between Pool Creek and Hope Creek. Okay, Pool Creek was where my friend had those 100-pound potato sacks taken out of his truck. Also where the old girlfriend of mine had her house slapped on the second story up with the Rottweiler sharing us off, climbing on the bed. People along that road have reported these beings looking at windows. A friend of mine's son seen one twice on that paved road through Pool Creek, but once at 8 Mile at the other end, once at Hindu Flats at the other end. What else? Now the guy seen tracks going across the road into the Birkenhead River, seen one in the river. And below where I'm going to share relating to your story was Birkenhead Lake. And not too far from there is where a man ran into multiple times ran into these beings. Broad daylight, seeing their faces. Now, if you go up that road past that Birkenhead Lake, up where they've gated it now, of course, and they've blown the bridges out now. But I was starting to narrow down where I felt these beings may be when I was intentionally looking, which I don't do anymore. And there was a plane going overhead. Anyway, I was on my old quad, a Yamaha Big Bear or something. I forget what the hell the damn thing is. 450. And so anybody familiar with it would know the noise level of the quad. And I quadded up past the Tanquil Lake trailhead, hang right, cross that bridge, doubles back and around a mountain, and then it worms its way up towards what is also on the map as Hope Creek, which is off the Hurley main line, which as far as I'm concerned is smack dab central for whoever's living in those mountains right there, still today. Anyway, and I got up to the end of this road, and it turns out later on I found out that right where I was, there's a little grassy meadow beside a creek and a bridge, old bridge, and right there is where apparently this old timer used to bring them food and had those Polaroids of them, which we really tried to get a hold of. And I was just past there, up on the high left, timber on my left, a little bit of a logging cut to the right, and then timber below me. I was sitting in my quad, and I could hear something slamming the ground in that timber below me over top of the motor of my quad. I'm like, and what did I do? My hair is standing on end right now. My hair is standing up on my arms right now, remembering that. And what did I do? I turned my quad around and I got the hell out of there. Isn't that funny how many people have done that and how many people you observed online too? They go out looking for these beings and when they find them, they run. Oh, get me out of here. But it's intimidating, right? It's very intimidating. Very intimidating. So yeah, I have heard that sound similar. I don't know if it's exactly what you heard. You heard one thump. I heard what sounded like I described it then and now as somebody had a huge boulder and was beating it on the ground. It wasn't knocking on wood. It was that muffled boom into the ground. And there you go. And I'm babbling a lot today, aren't I? Thanks for sending that in. You know what it was. You know what it was. Alright, what do we got? Mark this as read. It's a very short one. This is titled Long Time. Hi Steve. I watch your videos on a daily basis for a couple of years, and even while on holidays for 9 weeks in the Honduras. You have gained a fair bit of knowledge, but still have no real answers as to what critters are running around in the forests or why they are there. Alien in nature, paranormal, or government rejects set loose in the woods. Why not have all those faithful followers of yours sent snail mail to their appropriate country's minister or defense demanding to know what creatures are in the forests? Flood the government offices with snail mail demanding answers. The news or television stations would eventually hear about all the letters and also just might want to know what is in our national parks, terrifying the public. Just a thought. Endo email. Well, here's what I got to say about that. First off, that's absolutely the wrong thing to do as far as I'm concerned. This is just my answer. Maybe I'm wrong. We have to stop giving that group, which is titled the government, that power over us. We have got to stop that popular trend of looking to this group of absolute idiots to allow us to have some kind of knowledge or reassurance that something may or may not be legitimate. That's the absolute wrong thing to do. You have to ask who has seen these beings and who knows, who's experiencing it, who's got the knowledge, and that's the people. The people far outclass those groups titled government. 1,000,000-1. And furthermore, today, Minister of Defense, government, do you really think whatever they pump out right now to us would be legitimate? Right? So it goes, I'm a broken record on this topic, but think about it. For me, as soon as I hear someone, or even a group, whatever, typically someone, I catch them blatantly bullshitting me, you're done. You're done. You're a bullshitter. Anything that comes out of your mouth, I'll take with a grain of salt, and I will not be able to really pay attention to you again. I'll be polite, I'll listen to you, and banter a little bit, but in reality, you just screwed yourself. I don't have any time for bullshit. I don't have any time for bullshitters. The government and the defense groups and all the countries have all misled and lied to us blatantly, in your face lies. How many times in the past? Why would you give them the power after that to be in the position of confirming something for you? Right? It doesn't make sense, but so many people still do it today. It absolutely, if you govern your life by common sense, those groups need to be absolutely kicked to the curb. It has to come from the people. All of our knowledge has to come from us, the people. right? It's all we have. That's all we got is each other. That's it, right? That's why we're here. That's why this is powerful medicine here on this social media channel, whatever you want to call it. That's why it's very, very powerful medicine here. Very. It's because it's coming from the people. That's all we need to hear from. All right, what do we got? Okay, hold on, where are we? A couple in here that aren't related to the topics at hand that we're looking for answers for. All right, what do we got? This is titled, well, it's titled Red now. Steve, you had on your left a shadow man. Came black. 911. 911, Steve, you had on your left, on your L, and shadow man came black cloud. Weird title. Steve, today's video. Scene, time frame, 30/22, 44:50. You'll see shadows. Then the person appears out of the dark cloud. Excuse me. Alright, so it's down by the river. We don't have a date when this is sent, I don't think. Okay, it was sent July 7th is when this email was sent, 2023. There's some photos. Alright, looking at the photo, there's a bush. Come on, where's the next one? Nothing, something. That's a little odd, a little distorted. Now, is there any wind? There used to be a slight breeze on the far side of the river. Next to nothing below that tree. Alright, so it would take significant wind to cause that kind of a branch distortion coming into view, right? But it is what it is, and so you guys know, I've already made this clear, I'm not really too overly concerned about what you guys see or what I notice behind me in the videos. I know they're there. I don't know when they're there. Like, I don't know how often they are where I am, but they are where I am. There's no getting out of it. I've had, at that particular place, I had stuff thrown and bounce off of the quad from those bushes. We got it on the video. You could hear it hitting the quad in the camera. Also, just this last fall in those bushes, there was a whole bunch of willow, old willow, that big round, snapped off in the middle of it. I'm like, oh. That's a little odd. I wonder why, what did that, right? You can't get any motor vehicles down there except for my quad, a quad. And whatever's in that picture, I haven't a clue. I haven't a clue. But I appreciate you being observant and sending that in. On the other side of the river, up around the bend a little bit, is where I was taking a picture of that bear. I took a photo of a video. Video or photo? A couple years ago. Of that bear along the river. And then when I got home, I was looking, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And then straight above that bear in those bushes was a dark blob, and I zoomed in on it, and it was clearly a face with eyeballs. And if you use the bear as a reference, so that bear is probably about a 250, 300 pound bear. And that thing was above that bear, back in the bush, and it was probably a good 6 feet taller than the bear. So I would have put that head at about 9 feet. Also, I went back in the winter. That was in the summer. That would have been late summer, green leaves. And then I went back there and I intentionally took a photo of that spot in the winter because I thought, okay, well maybe there's a pile of or a blowdown in those bushes, and maybe the wind was just right and it exposed some dark branches or something. But I went back in the winter. No, there's nothing in there. It's just hardwoods, willow, and leaves. So it was definitely something. Remember Scott Carpenter, rest in peace, my man. He messaged me right away and said, "You got one on the camera. You got one on the camera." Is what it is. All I'm saying is, yep, they're there. There's definitely some odd things going on down at the river right here, and also that river. If you go as the crow flies straight behind me in the video and keep going, just a few miles, is where there is a fish hatchery. And there is a lot of action around that fish hatchery. A lot of people, some fish hatchery techs, have emailed me in the past explaining what's going on around there. I've also had a few people from a popular fishing store in Coombs, BC, shared with me that they seen two beings in the timber between that hatchery and my place here. They seen in the timber. I've also had numerous people have said flat out, you want to have a Sasquatch experience, just go walk the Stamp River, which is right over here, right? That's happened. Shit's going on around here. A lot. Big time. Strathcona Park, where Dr. John Bendernagel had his first experiences, right that way. Etc., etc. It's endless. I could babble forever about it. So what I'm saying is, things are going on where I take you guys down to the river. 100% for certain. Would that be bizarre? You know, sometimes you gotta wonder. I mean, I do not intentionally go to these places thinking I'm gonna catch something on camera. I don't think I'll ever catch anything on camera. I don't try to, because we are not, they outclass us too fiercely. But it would be something else if one day somebody decided to just come out and make themselves clearly visible, boom, in your face while I'm videotaping. I guess that is a possibility. Would it ever happen? I don't know. If it does, it would be pretty crazy, wouldn't it? Right? It'd be pretty crazy. All of a sudden they just said, all right, let's do this. Let's show the people, or whatever. Or maybe one would just be absolutely preoccupied with something else, and rivers and creeks are predominantly, if you really want to have experience a visual of one of these beings, as far as I'm concerned, you're more likely to have it happen if you hike up a creek bed. River or creek bed. That's where the majority of people who bump into these beings on rivers and creeks surprise them, including my grandfather, including many people. So there's something going on with that water, the creek bed. There's something's going on there that possibly distorts their senses, not to the max, but distorts it somewhat enough that they have been surprised by humans numerous times in creek beds and river beds. Why is that? Why is that? Dave Plattis, Missing 401, he has documented some kind of connection with granite boulders and rivers and water with missing people. Does that have something to do with us successfully surprising these beings numerous times in rivers? I don't know. Maybe I haven't a clue. I don't know. But anyway, man, I'm really babbling today. I guess I must have got my sleep caught up. Yeah. There's some shit going on down here behind me for sure. Am I going to stop going down there? No. Oh, and I do have trail cameras down there right now. I put a bunch out over a week ago, so it's time to check them. It's going to be some interesting shit on there. 110%. Am I expecting to catch these beings on trail cameras? Never. I do not even a half a thought think that I will catch one of these beings on a trail camera. It's not going to happen. I already know that, and I almost consider myself the grand poobah of trail cameras, believe me. I am the first person to get stone sheep on a trail camera. I've had a lot of firsts, but I have done some crazy ass things with trail cameras from Alaska to Alabama. I got a lot of them and a lot of experience with them. You're not going to catch these beings on a trail camera. They're just not good enough. Enough babble. Quick note, I did receive that power pack thing in the mail from that company. I got it. So I have to get my ass in gear and see if that thing actually works, figure out how to use it, before I will agree to promoting it. So, what should I do? I should take my Starlink setup, that power pack. I guess I should, what am I supposed to do? Videotape unboxing it, I guess, for the future if I do promote it. I'll have to take it out of the box, follow the instructions, set it up in the middle of the pasture here at my place. There's lots of sun, I'm guessing. Solar powered power pack. Juice it up, and then we will take that thing into the woods with my Starlink shit, set it up, and I will stream live with one hell of a view in the middle of nowhere here first to be certain that thing is going to work for me on my crazy ass adventure coming up. So I'll do that. I'll do that fairly soon. I have to do it soon. But I don't want to promote some company either, right? So, well, maybe I'll do I can do the stream. That's what I'll do. I'll take all that shit up into the woods, up on a mountain somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I'll record live using the Starlink from the middle of nowhere out here somewhere without sharing the name of how I'm doing it. That's what I'll do first. So I can still utilize the video with you guys and at the same time ensure that the product is worthy of us. Alright, before I share who made it and what it is. That's what I'm going to do. That should be cool. And then I'll confirm that it is worthy for me and I will be able to depend on it to take into my remote drop-off, see you later trip. So there you go. I think I should get going. As soon as I got home, I pressure canned 32 jars of salmon yesterday. And I still have, what do I got? I've got a 3 large 20 plus salmon I have to get done today as well. They've been out of the water for a little bit, chilled, but I got to get it done. Get this done. Saturday. What's the day today? What day is it today? It's Thursday. The 10th of August. So that means Friday the 11th, Saturday the 12th of August, 10 a.m. Pacific time, my time. Nino and I will be live again. I'm not sure if it'll be my channel or his. I don't really give a shit. I'll figure it out. He's flying home from Vegas as we sit here. So I will confirm, well, everything's confirmed, Saturday, 10 a.m. I just have to get a few things together that I would like to share with Nino publicly for his gang to learn about. And we'll keep rocking the shit out. So there you go. Saturday, 10 a.m. August 12th, Pacific time. Nino and I live again, sharing knowledge. I'll be back shortly. Share my story at howtohunt.com is where you're going to get your experience and your knowledge shared word for word with the people by the people, right? Back in a bit.